Howdy y'all, my name is Rational Outlaw, and today I have a video on Pitbulls. Now think about this. We've all heard about the wage gap, and we know it is actually an earnings gap, and that the supposed wage gap has been debunked numerous times. We know that the wage gap is just only looking at the numbers purely and not the reasonings as to why those numbers are like that, the different factors like hours worked and these different jobs that men and women take, all those things. But what if I was to tell you people do the exact same thing with the stats that talk about Pitbull attacks? I have seen people doing this both on the left and on the right. And you know what? Those stats on Pitbull attacks are taken just as much out of context as the stats on the supposed wage gap. According to the American Temperament Society, American Pit Bull Terriers have an 87.4% passing rate. And the number of pit bulls tested for this particular test was 931, with 814 passing and 117 failing. Now let's look at some other dogs, like Labrador Retrievers, for example. Labrador Retrievers passed at 92.2%. A bit higher than the American Pit Bull Terrier, but not an extraordinary amount. As for the number tested, it was 842, with 776 passing and 66 failing. For Golden Retrievers, it was 85.6%, with the number of 813 Golden Retrievers, with 696 passing and 117 failing. The reason why I'm looking at these specific dogs is people have associated these two particular breeds being some of the most lovable, kind, caring dogs. At least from what I have seen and heard and everything. I also picked these two particular breeds because they had a similar number of dogs tested. Now let's look at a few others. Another dog is the Australian Shepherd with an 82.2% passing. The number of dogs tested was 702, with 577 passing and 125 failing. Next one is the Akita. The Akita has a 77.8% passing, with the number of dogs tested at 598, with 465 passing and 133 not. And the last dog on this list that I have is the Shetland Sheepdog. I think that's how you pronounce it. Now, like the Akita, this dog is a few hundred dogs tested lower. However, I still think the number is pretty significant for this study. For this particular dog breed, it was 515 that were tested, with 355 passing and 160 failing. That's 68.9% passing. That's quite a bit lower than the Akita, which has a similar number of dogs tested. Now, you might be wondering then why there's some studies that say that there are a bunch of attacks by pit bulls. Well, let's get into that. According to one study, over 40% of the pit bulls reported by the media were not actual pit bulls. This article analyzes a 10-year period of dog bite incidents. And there's also another study that goes over 20 years of statistics of dog bites and found that the DBRF, dog bite risk factor for pit bulls, is at a 1.95. That is definitely not the highest rank. You know who was ranked higher? The St. Bernard at 2.05, the Chow Chow at 2.32, and the Malamute at 6.79. And as I said, this is over a 20-year period. The study also goes over the fact that they believe it needs to be well over 10 for there to be any significant risk for a type of dog. Also, if you want to know your risk of getting killed by a dog, it's 1 in 112,400. You're more likely to get killed by hornets, wasps, or bees. Your odds of getting killed by those things is a 1 in 63,225. Now you might be thinking, but Rational, what about their locking jaws? Well, that is complete utter bull. The studies that have been done have shown that their jaws are no different than any other dog breed. Okay, but what about their bites? Their bites are the strongest bites of all. Well, that is also false. Out of all the dog breeds, the American Pitbull only ranks 9th. Their bites are at 235 psi. The dog breeds that have a stronger bite than American Pit Bulls are the German Shepherd, the Doberman, the American Bulldog, the African Wolf Dog, the Rottweiler, the Wolf Dog, the English Mastiff, and the last, at the highest psi of 743, the Kangal. Now, before I go into the last part of my video, I would like to go over the organizations that are against breed-specific policies because they have no basis in science. Here's the list. The American Bar Association, the American Kennel Club, the American Veterinary Medical Association, the American Veterinary Society of Animal Behavior, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the National Animal Control Association, the National Canine Research Council, State Farm Insurance, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, the U.S. Department of Justice, and the Humane Society. To end the video, I'd like to give a bit of history on pit bulls in America. When pit bulls were brought to the United States, they were brought as the prized possessions of those families, according to the article, What Happened to America's Dog. Pit bulls were used for general purpose herding and working dogs. They were also used for hunters and herders, guardians, and household pets. The author then goes on to say by the early 1900s, the pit bull was one of the most popular breeds in the United States and had become a symbol of American pride. And as this symbol, they were used in recruiting posters for soldiers and to sell war bonds. There was also a mixed pit bull who went by the name of SGT Stubby and was the first dog to be awarded Army medals. This dog had survived combat twice and saved his platoon from being killed. He did this by warning them of a poison gas attack. After all of this, Stubby then later became an American celebrity and was even able to meet 3 different presidents. Also, pit bulls got the nickname nanny dogs. People trusted them to protect their children. But later on, this changed. This loving of the pit bull changed. Instead of love, people started fearing the pit bull. This started happening when myths started arising about how it was a dangerous fighting dog. And these myths, put out by the media, got criminals and bad people's attention, and so those people started getting the dogs, breeding them, and mistreating them. And so they started becoming associated with criminals and being a bad dog and all these different horrible things. That is what happened to pit bulls. That's going to be it for today. Subscribe if you enjoyed this video. You can also follow me on my other social media like Minds.com, BitChute, Gab, Twitter, Facebook, and you can also support me on Maker Support, Patreon, Ko-fi, or you can also buy some merch. All of this will be in the description down below. And if you would like to read up more on the topic of pit bulls, I will have all the sources down below. And I'll see y'all later.
We bop and hippity hop. I'm as happy as I can be. Whoa, boom, boom, and hippity zoom. Love is sweet, love is grand, works run. We bop and hippity hop. I'll never be a millionaire. Whoa, boom.